Okay, dear students, today we will discuss about that magnetic properties in case of three-D series of elements or deep black elements. So, we know that the magnetic properties are of three types. So, one is paramagnetic, second one is what? Diamagnetic, and ferromagnetic. So, what are paramagnetic substances? Those substances which are attracted by the magnetic field. Those substances which are attracted by magnetic field are called paramagnetic substances. Those substances which are repelled by the magnetic field, they are called diamagnetic substances. Ferromagnetic substances are nothing but those substances which are strongly attracted by magnetic fields are called ferromagnetic. Paramagnetic substances are nothing but which are attracted by the magnetic field or nothing but weakly attracted by the magnetic field. Diamagnetic substances are nothing but what? They are repelled by the magnetic field. So, ferromagnetic substances are which are strongly attracted by the magnetic fields. So, the example for these substances are Ac2 plus, vanadium 2 plus or vanadium 3 plus, etc. So, those substances which are repelled by the magnetic field, example Ac3 plus, Ti 4 V4 plus, etc. or Zn or Zn2 plus compounds. So, those substances which are strongly attracted by the magnetic field are called iron, cobalt, nickel, copper, etc. Yes, no, sorry. Cobalt, iron, cobalt, nickel. Again, now, so why these substances are weakly attracted by the magnetic field or why they are attracted by the magnetic field? Due to presence of unpaired electrons. Those substances having what unpaired electrons or those d orbitals are partially filled, then they are attracted by the magnetic field. Then those substances does not having unpaired electrons, they does not attracted by the magnetic field. Then, so why they are strongly attracted by the magnetic field? Because the number of unpaired electrons are more. So, if there is a presence of unpaired electrons, why they are attracted by the magnetic field? So, that the attraction by the magnetic field is due to one is orbital angular moment, then second one is spin angular moment. Due to the spinning of electron in an orbital or the orbital itself undergoes what? Spinning, then those electrons, they are attracted by the magnetic field. Okay. Now, the magnetic moment. So, what are the magnetic moment of those different substances can be calculated by using a formula where mu is equals to square root of n into n plus 2. So, mu is nothing but what? Magnetic moment that is expressed in Bohr magneton. Bm. So what is N? N is nothing but number of unpaired electrons. N is nothing but number of unpaired electrons. So we'll calculate the magnetic moment in case of what different substances. So in case of what Sc2 plus compounds. So if you go for Sc2 plus, Sc configuration we know that is 4s2 3d1. Okay. So Sc is 4s2 3d1, Sc2 plus compound means SeCl2. So their configuration it becomes what 4s0 3d1. Okay. If the configuration is 4s0 3d1, the number of unpaired electrons in that element is what 1. So where n value is 1, if the n value is 1, magnetic moment is calculated by square root of n into n plus 2, where so n value is 1, 1 plus 2, 1 into 1 plus 2, so 1 plus 2 is what? 3, 3 into 1 is 3, root of 3, that value is what? 1.73 Bohr magneton. So if you go for Sc3 plus, Sc3 plus, where configuration is Sc3 plus means it can lose 2 from S, 1 from D, then the configuration is 4s0 3d0. If it is 4s0 3d0, where n value is 0 means there is no unpaired electrons in that element, then the magnetic moment it becomes what 0. Magnetic moment becomes 0. Means it does not attracted by the magnetic field. It is repelled by the magnetic field. Hence this substance is called diamagnetic substance, but Sc2 plus is called paramagnetic substance. Then, so if you go for vanadium, scandium, titanium, vanadium, like that if you go, I mean, so 4s2 3d2. So Ti2 plus, if you go for Ti2 plus, Ti2 plus is nothing but the configuration 4s0 3d2. How many unpaired electrons are there? There are 2 unpaired electrons in d orbital. Then where n value is 2, if n value is 2, magnetic moment is calculated by square root of 2 into 2 plus 2, 2 plus 2 is 4, 4 to the 8, root of 8. Root of 8 is less than that of 3, nothing but it is around 2.82 Bohr magneton. Okay. Then if you go for Ti3 plus, Ti3 plus, the magnetic moment is less only, the reason is configuration 4s0 3d1. It can lose 3 electrons from 4s and 3d, okay, 2 from 4s and 1 from 3d. So the number of unpaired electron is 1. If the magnetic moment it becomes 1 into 1 plus 2, nothing but it is almost equivalent to 1.73 Bohr magneton. So if you go for Ti4 plus, okay, the magnetic moment, I mean the configuration is 4s0 3d0, the where n value it is 0, there is no unpaired electrons, then so mu is equals to S 0 into 0 plus 2, nothing but what? The value is 0. Okay. So this is what diamagnetic. These two are paramagnetic. So this is paramagnetic, but this is diamagnetic. So diamagnetic substance is nothing but what? One which is repelled by the magnetic field. Then we may call it as diamagnetic substances. Why they are repelled by the magnetic field? Because there is an absence of unpaired electrons. Okay. So why these elements they are attracted by the magnetic field? Because there is a presence of what? Unpaired electron. Then the magnetic moment is not 0. Okay. Now we'll go for vanadium. So if the vanadium configuration is V3 plus, so 4s2 3d5, sorry 4s2 3d3. So V3 plus is nothing but it can lose 2 from S, 1 from D, then it becomes what? 4s03d2. 4s03d2 where n value is 2, when L is 2, nothing but what? Root of 2 into 2 plus 2, nothing but what? It is around 2.82 Bohr magneton. So like that, if you go for CR3 plus, CR configuration 4s2, 4s1 3d5. So the configuration is, CR3 plus configuration is 4s0, 1 from S, 2 from D, 4s0 3d3, where n value is 3, the magnetic moment is, so n equals 3 means what? 3 into 3 plus 2, 3 plus 2 means 5, 5 3s are 15, 15 is nothing but less than 4, so it is around 3.9 Bohr magneton. So like that, if you go for Mn, so 4s2 3d5 configuration, so if it is Mn2 plus, Mn2 plus means what? It can lose 2 electrons from 4s, then the configuration is 4s0 3d5, d5 is nothing but all the set of d orbitals are completely half filled, so there are 5 unpaired electrons are there. If there are 5 unpaired electrons, then the configuration is, so 5 into 5 plus 2. 5 plus 2 is 7, 7 5 is 35, so root of 35, so it is less than 6, nothing but, so around 5.9 or something. Okay. Then if you go for Fe, so Fe configuration 4s2 3d6, if it is in Fe2 plus form, the configuration is 4s0 3d6, it can lose 2 from 4s. d6, d6 means what? How many unpaired electrons are there? Only 4, 1 is paired, right? So where n value becomes what? 4, magnetic moment, that is 4 into 4 plus 2, 4 plus 2 is nothing but 6, 6 4s are 24, so it should be less than 5, means 4.9 or something. Okay. Then if you go for Fe3 plus, Fe3 plus is 4s0 3d5, where n value is 5, magnetic moment is calculated by, so 5 into 5 plus 2. Okay. So it may be 5.9. Now if you go for iron, cobalt configuration 4s2 3d7, if it is plus 2, then it is d7 configuration, if it is plus 3, so 4s0 3d6, okay, it can lose 3 electron, 2 from 4s and 1 from d, so 4s0 3d6 nothing but number of unpaired electrons are 5 only, where magnetic moment is calculated by, the number of unpaired electrons are 4 only, magnetic moment is calculated by 4 into 4 plus 2. Okay. So 6 4s are 24, nothing but what? Nearly 4.9. Now, so nickel, if you go, so configuration is 4s2 3d8. Okay. If you go for Ni3 plus, Ni3 plus means it can lose 2 from S, 1 from D, nothing but what? 4s0 3d7. d7 nothing but what? 2 are paired, 3 are unpaired, so where n value is 3. Magnetic moment is calculated by, so 3 into 3 plus 2, means 5 3s are 15, 15 is nothing but nearly, so 3.89 or 3.9. Like that, if you go for copper, okay, so 4s2, 4s1 3d10, then if it is in the plus 2 state, okay, we can't write plus 3, so plus 2 means what? So 4s0 3d9, d9 means what? 4 orbitals are paired, 1 is unpaired, hence configuration is, the number of unpaired electrons are only 1, magnetic moment is calculated by S root of 1 into 1 plus 2, 3, root 3 value is 1.73 Bohr magneton. So like that, if you go for Zn, Okay, so configuration is 4s2 3d10. Zn oxidation state is +2 only. It is a pseudo transition element. It does not exhibit an variable oxidation state. The configuration of Zn2 plus is 4s0 3d10. No more unpaired electrons. No more unpaired electron means it does not having an magnetic moment. So it will prove that. So the zinc family is an what? Pseudo transition element. Why? It does not exhibit an variable oxidation state and also does not exhibit an magnetic property. Okay. So in case of magnetic properties, there are three types: paramagnetic, diamagnetic and ferromagnetic substances. Paramagnetic substances are nothing but what? Those substances which are weakly attracted by the magnetic field. Then they are called paramagnetic substances. Why they are attracted by the magnetic field? Due to presence of unpaired electrons. The number of unpaired electrons in paramagnetic substances are less. They are weakly attracted by the magnetic field. Okay? Their magnetic moment can be calculated by using a formula square root of n into n plus 2, where mu is nothing but magnetic moment, where n is nothing but what? The number of unpaired electrons. So what are diamagnetic substances? Those are repelled by the magnetic field. Why they are repelled by the magnetic field? Due to absence of unpaired electrons. Does not having an unpaired electrons. Unpaired electrons are not there in those substances. Then those substances are called diamagnetic substances. Okay. Then so Zn2 plus is diamagnetic. Even Zn is diamagnetic. Then so vanadium 5 plus is also diamagnetic. Sc3 plus is also diamagnetic because they does not having an unpaired electrons. So what are ferromagnetic substances? Those substances which are strongly attracted by the magnetic field are called ferromagnetic substances. Example: iron, cobalt, nickel. Usually the calculated value for those iron, cobalt, nickel, magnetic moment is less, but that observed value, the experimental value is more for these iron, cobalt and nickel. So usually you see the magnetic moment goes on increases. If you take that only one type of oxidation state, the magnetic moment goes on increases up to Mn. Then onwards magnetic moment will decrease usually. Okay. So iron, cobalt, nickel having a lesser oxidation state due to the pairing of electrons. Due to pairing of electrons, the magnetic moment will decrease. So once the magnetic moment decreases, there should be paramagnetic substances, but the experimentally it is proved they are diamagnetic. They are strongly attracted by the magnetic field. Okay. So like that we can calculate the magnetic moment. So among those elements. So here they will ask the question. Okay. So among Sc2 plus and Sc3 plus, among Sc2 plus and Sc3 plus, who is paramagnetic, who is diamagnetic and why? So what have to do? First let us write the electronic configuration for Sc 4s2 3d1. Sc2 plus means it can lose 2 from 4s, d having only 1 electron. So it's having one unpaired electron there. If it is one unpaired electron there, it can exhibit on what? Magnetic property, means it's having 1.73 Bohr magneton. Okay. Then so Sc3 plus, what is the configuration of Sc3 plus? 4s0 3d0. Okay. 4s0 3d0 means what? Where n value is 0. If the n value is 0, magnetic moment is 0. So therefore Sc3 plus is diamagnetic, Sc2 plus is paramagnetic substance. Like that. Among Cu plus and Cu2 plus, who is paramagnetic, who is diamagnetic? Among Sc, Cu plus and Cu2 plus. So who is paramagnetic, who is diamagnetic? Cu configuration is 4s1 3d10. Cu plus means it can lose 1 electron from 4s. No more unpaired electrons. All the d orbitals are completely filled, no more unpaired electrons. D10, D10 is nothing but all the set of 5 orbitals are completely filled. No more unpaired electrons are there. If no more unpaired electrons are there, then n is 0. If n is 0, compulsory magnetic moment should be 0. So, in case of Cu2 plus, configuration is 4s03d 9. d9 is nothing but what? There is an 1 unpaired electrons will be there. The n value is 1, then the magnetic moment should be 1.73 Bohr magnet. Yes. Okay. So, is it, next question, is it Zn2 plus is paramagnetic or diamagnetic? It is diamagnetic, it is repelled by the magnetic field. Why it is diamagnetic? Configuration of Zn2 plus is 4s03d10. So, if it is d10, no more unpaired electron, n is 0. If n value is 0, magnetic moment should be 0. Yes. Now, we will go for formation of colored complexes. Or colored compounds by transition elements, 3D series of elements. Okay. So, why these transition elements? They can exhibit an colored compounds or they can exhibit an color. So, to exhibit an color, the transition element must have, one is unpaired electrons. The transition metal in its compound, so must have unpaired electrons or partially filled d orbitals. They must have partially filled d orbitals, and then there is a splitting of d orbital, the set of d orbitals into two set of orbitals, that is T2z set of orbitals and EZ set of orbitals. So, we know that d orbitals are 5. Okay. So, those are dxy, dyz, dxz, dx square minus y square, and then dz square. You see, so there are 5 orbitals are there. Those 5 orbitals can split up into two set of orbitals. First 3 set of orbitals, these 3 set of orbitals are called T2z set of orbitals. Okay, dxy, dyz, dxz. Then, so another set of orbitals, another 2 orbitals, that is called EZ set of orbitals. Those are ds square minus y square and dz square. These EZ set and T2z set orbital energy difference can be decided on the basis of either octahedral splitting or tetrahedral splitting. Okay. So, one is T2z set of orbitals and EZ set of orbitals. T2z set orbitals having lower energy. Okay. So, lower energy, these orbitals having higher energy. Okay. So, when there is an splitting of d orbitals, then there is an jumping of electrons. Jumping of electrons from lower energy or set of orbitals to lower energy orbitals to higher energy orbitals. During that, they can emit a different wavelength of light. Different wavelength of light they can emit. Or the emitted light having a wavelength which is complementary to the absorbed wavelength, then only they can exhibit an color. So, why they can exhibit an color, different color in its compound? So, reason is due to presence of unpaired electrons in that orbitals, d orbitals, and then they are partially filled d orbitals. Okay. Then those d orbitals can split up into two set of orbital. One is T2z set of orbitals and one more is what? EZ set of orbitals. T2z set of orbitals are called low energy set of orbitals, then EZ set of orbitals are called higher energy orbitals. Then, if there is a formation of energy difference between those orbitals, then the electron can jump from low energy to high energy. So, while jumping, they can absorb certain wavelength of radiation, okay. While come back, they can emit the wavelength which is other than the top observed wavelength, hence they can exhibit an what? Different color. So, let us discuss about that. Why that copper can exhibit, copper in the form of +2 can exhibit an color. So, why that Cu2 plus can exhibit an color? We know the configuration of Cu. So, it is what 4s1 3d10 Cu2 plus. You see, in case of Cu2 plus, configuration is 4s0 3d9. 3d9 is nothing but what? All those 5 orbitals are there, no? So, dxy is 2, dyz 2, dxz 2, dx square minus y square 2, dz square 1. See. So, this is partially filled, not completely filled. Okay? Then, second condition, there is a presence of what? Unpaired electron. So, if there is an partially filled, then there is a presence of what? Unpaired electron. Then, these set of orbitals can split up into two set of orbitals. So, that is T2z set of orbital and EZ set of orbitals. When that substance which is exposed to the sunlight, okay, so these orbitals can split up into two set of orbitals, okay. So, T2z and EZ set of orbitals. So, in presence of what? Sunlight, these T2z set of the electrons which are present in the T2z set are nothing but low energy set of orbital. They can absorb certain wavelength of radiation. So, finally, those electrons will jump to the higher energy. Once they will go for higher energy, the stability will decrease. You see, one electron from T2z set can jump to EZ set of orbital. So, now EZ set of orbital is completely filled, T2z set of orbital is what? Partially filled, and moreover, if the number of electrons which are accumulated in the higher energy is more than that of low energy, then the stability is very less. Okay. So, while come back, I mean to attain the stability, once again that electron will come back to low energy set of orbitals. Okay. So, like this. While come back, they can emit an wavelength which is other than that of what? Observed wavelength. I mean, during the jumping of electron from low energy to higher energy, it can absorb the wavelength which is responsible for red color. It can absorb an wavelength of light which is present in the visible region, which is responsible for red color. So, while come back, it can emit some radiation having a wavelength, so which is responsible for blue color. So, the observed color is blue, but the absorbed color is red. So, the colors are complementary, means if it absorbs red, it can emit blue. If it absorbs blue, it can emit red color. Okay. So, if they ask the question, why that Cu2 plus compounds can exhibit an color? Cu2 plus compounds are nothing but either CuCl2 or CuSO4. We know that CuSO4 is color. So, in cupric chloride or cupric sulfate, so they are in the +2. +2 is nothing but configuration is 4s03d9. If the configuration is 4s03d9, automatically, so there is a presence of what? Unpaired electron in d orbital, then there is an partially filled. Okay. Then the third condition, those set of 5 orbitals can split up into two set of orbital. One is T2z set and one more is what? EZ set of orbital. Okay. So, when that compound which is exposed to the sunlight, okay, so in that sunlight it can absorbs the wavelength which is responsible for red color for jumping of electron from low energy to higher energy. Okay. Once it goes to the higher energy state, then the molecule is more unstable. To attain the stability, once again that electron will come back. While come back, it can emit the radiation having a wavelength which is responsible for blue. The absorbed color is red, okay, but the emitted color is blue. Therefore, so copper sulfate, it appears to be bluish color. Why it appears to be bluish color? Because the absorbed color is red. That is called complementary colors. So like that, so some compounds they can absorb red colored wavelength, they can emit blue in case of copper sulfate. So some compounds they can absorb blue, but they can emit an red colored wavelength. Some compounds they can absorb green, but they can emit violet. If they can absorb violet, they can emit green color. Okay. Therefore, the different elements in its compounds, we can observe the different colors because the absorbed wavelength and observed wavelength are different. Atha absorbed frequency and observed frequency is different. So why? So the wavelength and frequency, they are inversely proportional. Okay. Now, so once again we will see why those transition elements they can exhibit and what different colors in its compounds. One is due to presence of unpaired electron in that d orbitals. Moreover, they are partially filled and splitting of d orbitals into two set of orbital, T2z set of orbital and EZ set of orbitals. Those 5 orbitals only can split up into two sets, T2z and EZ during octahedral splitting. But in case of tetrahedral splitting, it is reverse. EZ set is lower energy, T2z set is higher energy orbitals. Okay. And moreover, there is a jumping of electron from T2z as set of orbitals to EZ set of orbitals. During that, they can exhibit a color. Okay. So let us discuss. So why that Cu2 plus is color, can exhibit a color, bluish color. Cu2 plus configuration is 4s03d9. There is a presence of unpaired electron, and moreover it is partially filled. Okay, it can split up into two set of orbital, T2z and EZ set of orbital. So when we are exposed to the sunlight, so during that there is a jumping of electron from low energy to high energy. For that it requires an energy. So it is absorbed from that sunlight. So it can absorb the red colored wavelength of light. So while come back means the electron will come back to the low energy set of orbital. During that it can emit an wavelength which is responsible for blue color. Hence it can exhibit an bluish color. So like that, so some compounds they can absorb blue, but they can emit red colored. Some compounds can absorb green, but they can exhibit the violet color. Therefore, we know that almost all the plants are greenish in color. Why they are greenish in color? Because the absorbed color from that sunlight is what? Violet. They can exhibit green. So some flower plants are red. Why they are red? Because from that sunlight they can absorb blue colored wavelength of light. Okay? Yes. Now even not only metallic compounds, even complex substances are also can exhibit an what? Color. So example for complex substances are, one is CuNH3, the most simplest example, CuNH3 4 times SO4. Okay, this is a complex salt. Salts are of 3 types. One is simple salts, double salts, and one more is what? Complex salts. Simple salts is nothing but made up of by simple ions, nothing but what? One cation and one anion. Double salts are made up of by 2 cations and 1 anion. So example, potassium K2SO4, Al2SO4 thrice, Al2SO4 thrice, 24H2. It is a double salt made up of by 2 simple salts, but in those 2 simple salts, so 2 different cations are there, K plus and Al3 plus are there, but only one type of anion is there. What are complex salts? Those salts having at least one complex ion, not simple ion. When we are added to the aqueous media, it can dissociate to form CuNH3 4 times 2 plus SO4 2 minus. This is called complex ion. So when NaCl is added to the aqueous media, it can dissociate to form Na plus and Cl minus. We will get it on simple ions. But here, so at least one of the ions should be complex. Okay, then those salts are complex ion. What are complex ion? Those ion which is made up of by central metal atom surrounded by ligands. Surrounded by ligands. What are ligands? Those, central metal ion here is what? Cu2 plus. Ligand is ammonia. Ligand is nothing but one which donate a pair of electron. One which donate a pair of electron, then it is called ligand. You see here, so 4 ammonia molecules are there, okay. So these ammonia molecules are called ligands. Okay, according to IUPAC name, we are calling as amine. So 4 amine ligands are there. They can donate 4 pair of hot electrons. Each can donate one pair of electron. It acts as an Lewis base. Okay, this is what central metal ion. The combination of both central metal ion and ligand. This is called complex ion, which is made up of by central metal ion and ligand. Okay, what are complex ion? So complex salts are nothing but what? Those salts having at least one complex ion. What is complex ion? The complex ion is made up of by central metal ion surrounded by ligands, or nothing but what? Lewis base. Okay. Now we'll go for complex salts. Next property of what? Transition elements. That is, they can form complex salts or coordination compounds. So already we discussed the salts are of 3 types. One is simple salt, double salts, and complex salts or coordination compounds. Yes, we know that simple salt is nothing but made up of by simple cation and anion. So example, Ca2 plus there, SO4 2 minus there. So example, that is CaSO4, it is a simple salt, or NaCl is a simple salt made up of by Na plus and Cl minus. Double salt is nothing but made up of by 2 simple salts. Among them, so 2 cations are there, 1 anion should be there. So example, K2SO4, Al2SO4 thrice, Al2SO4 thrice, 24H2O. Here 2 simple salts are there. In that 2 different cations are there. So K plus and Al3 plus. So but anion is only one type. Then complex salts. What are complex salts? Those salts, example for complex salt is what? Cuprammonium sulfate, CuNH3 4 times SO4. This is what complex salt. What is complex salt? The salts having at least one complex ion. One complex ion means cuprammonium ion is a complex ion plus SO4 2 minus. So why it is complex ion? The complex ion is nothing but what? Which is made up of by central metal ion, that is Cu2 plus. Why it is 2 plus here? So ammonia is a neutral ligand. The charge on that ammonia is 0. Copper is +2. The total charge on the complex ion it depends upon the sum of charges on metal ion and ligand. +2 + 0 it becomes 2 plus. Ce2 plus there, which is surrounded by ligands. How many ligands are there? 4 ammonia ligands are there. So now what is meant by ligand? Ligand is nothing but one which donate a pair of electron, to the center metal ion, that is called ligand. Okay. So complex salts are nothing but those salts which can dissociate to give at least one complex ion, then they are called complex salts. So what is complex ion? Which is made up of by metal ion and ligands. Now, so these transition elements they can exhibit an or they can form some what complex salts. So not only cuprammonium sulfate we can write, so K4FeCN6. You see, so potassium ferrocyanide K is +1 into 4 +4. This is what -4 by Cn is what -1 into 6 -6. F is +2. Potassium ferrocyanide is also complex salt. Means it can dissociate to form 4K plus FeCN6 4 minus. Some complex salts are there, even neutral complex salts are there. So FeCO 5 times iron pentacarbonyl, okay. So this is neutral complex salt. Neutral means what? The charge on that carbonyl group is what? 0. Iron charge on iron is 0. The total charge on that complex salt is also 0. Like that nickel tetracarbonyl there, NiCO 4 times. So nickel tetracarbonyl, iron pentacarbonyl, these are all neutral complex salts. So potassium ferrocyanide, cuprammonium sulfate, they are called the charged complex salts. Okay, either cationic complex salts or anionic complex salt, you leave it. So any complex salt which is made up of by transition element only. Here the transition element is what? Iron. In case of cuprammonium sulfate, transition element is copper. In case of iron pentacarbonyl, that is what Fe. In case of nickel tetracarbonyl, that is what? Nickel. So all these are transition elements only. Why the complex salts are formed by transition elements? So one of that condition is charge by size, polarizing power for those transition elements is more. Polarizing power is more. So polarizing power is nothing but what? Charge by size ratio should be more. When that polarizing power is high, charge should be more, size should be less. Size should be less. Size is less, charge should be more. We know that these transition elements, they can lose the electrons. Once they can lose the electrons, nothing but positive charge goes on increases. If it can lose 1 plus 1, if it can lose 2 plus 2. We know that in transition element they can exhibit an variable oxidation state. The oxidation number it may increases from +1 to +7, therefore the positive charge increases. Then, so once they can lose the electron, automatically the size will decrease. So nucleus is there, 1s having 2 electrons, 3s having 2 electrons, 3p having 6 electrons, 2s having 2 electrons, 2p having 6 electrons, okay. Third cell if you go, 3s2, 3p6, okay, 3d, okay, it will start after the filling of electron in 4s. You see, if d10 there. So it can lose 2 electron, then it is +2. Okay, so after losing 2 electrons from 4s, then atomic size will decrease. Why? The number of positive charges are more, number of negative electrons in the outermost shell is less, nuclear charge or force of attraction increases, then atomic size decreases. So charge will increase, size will decrease, then automatically, so polarizing power is more. Along with that, two more conditions are there. One is they can provide an vacant orbitals. These d orbitals, d subshells or d orbitals can provide an vacant orbitals. So, if they can provide an vacant orbital, easily they can receive the electron from ligand. You see, metal ion is there, metal ion can form a bond with what? Coordinate covalent bond with what? Ligand, that is what? Amine. Okay, this amine can donate a pair of electron. Okay, to receive the electron from the ligand, it must have vacant orbitals. So, empty orbital should be there, then only it can receive the electrons. We know that complex ion is nothing but made up of by metal ion and ligand. Here ligand can donate a pair of electron. To receive the pair of electron by the metal ion, it must have empty orbitals. Once the number of empty orbitals are more, then easily they can receive the electrons. So, that is one more condition. One is the polarizing power is more. Okay. Once the polarizing power is more, charge is more, size should be less. During the increase in the polarizing power, positive charge is more, means they can provide a more number of vacant orbitals. Once they can provide a more number of vacant orbitals, easily it can receive the electrons from ligands. Then they can form cell. These complex ions are complex salts. Why? Transition elements, they can form some complex salts. The reason is the polarizing power is more, means charge is more, size is less. Once the polarizing power is more, positive charge goes on increase. Positive charge increases, means it can lose the electron, size will decrease. Okay. Along with that, they can provide an vacant d orbitals. Once they can provide an vacant orbitals, easily they can receive the electron from ligand. Once they can receive the electron from ligand, they can form some complex salts or complex ion. Okay. Hence, they can form some different complex salts or coordination compounds. So, one more term I wrote, what are coordination compounds? So, why they are calling coordination compounds? Because in the formation of bond between the ligand and the metal ion, okay, that is the coordinate covalent bond. Coordinate covalent bond is nothing but, so it is a sharing of electron pair between the two atoms, where the shared pair of electrons can be donated by only one of the atom. Okay. So, they are also called coordination compounds because the metal ion and ligand are made up of by coordinate covalent bond. We will go for catalytic property can be exhibited by the transition elements. So, we know that these transition elements having an variable oxidation state, they can exhibit an color, they can form some complex salts. Okay. So, and magnetic properties, these properties that is due to one main reason, that is the energy difference between 4s and 3d orbitals is very, very less. Moreover, the 3d orbitals are extended up to outermost shell. Once they are extended up to outermost shell, the energy difference between 4s and 3d is less. So, after losing 2 electrons from 4s, immediately it can lose the electron from 3d. So, they can exhibit a variable oxidation state like +1, +2, +3, +4 up to +7 in case of what? Manganese. Okay. So, due to presence of variable oxidation state, or they can be exhibited by variable oxidation state, they having an catalytic properties. So, we know that in case of manufacture of what? Ammonia, okay, in P block. So, ammonia is manufactured by using an what? Nitrogen and hydrogen. N2 plus 3H2, it becomes a 2NH3. So, here we are using iron as a catalyst, molybdenum as a promoter. Iron as a catalyst, molybdenum as a promoter. So, iron is a transition element. it acts as a catalyst. So, in the manufacture of what sulfuric acid, the most important step is for conversion of what SO2 into SO3. 2SO2 plus O2 it become 2SO3 by using vanadium pentoxide or platinum as an catalyst. We know that vanadium is a transition element, PT is a transition element. Next, so in the hydrogenation of what oil? Oil it undergoes what hydrogenation? Oil is nothing but it is unsaturated. It can be converted to saturated fat. Okay, during hydrogenation by using nickel as a catalyst. Or conversion of what ethene. Ethene is there, it undergoes what hydrogenation. In presence of nickel catalyst, we can get it on ethane. Okay, so majority of reactions can be carried out by using an catalyst. Those catalysts are transition elements only. Why those transition elements can act as a catalyst? One is they can exhibit variable oxidation state. So, these transition elements having an catalytic property, that is due to they can exhibit on what variable oxidation state, that is the first condition. Then the energy of activation is less. What is energy of activation? In chemical kinetics, we will discuss about that. The energy of activation, I mean, there is a reaction there, A plus B can be converted to what? A plus B can be converted to C plus T. Okay. So, here this is called threshold energy. This is what energy of reactant. Okay. The energy difference between the energy of reactant and the threshold energy, this is called energy of activation. So, the difference in the energy between the energy of, this is what the energy of product, the difference in the energy between reactant and the product, that is called delta H or delta U. See? So, for formation of any product or for every reaction, there must be a collision between the molecules. So, all collision will not lead to the formation of product, only the effective collision will lead to the formation of product. So, when does the effective collision will takes place? Once the molecule can have minimum sufficient amount of energy, means they must have threshold energy. Okay, then only the reaction will take place. To reach the threshold energy, yes, they require some extra energy. That extra energy is called energy of activation. So, what is energy of activation? It is the extra energy which is required for conversion of what? Inactive molecules to become active. Or it is the extra energy which is required to reach the threshold energy, then it is called energy of activation. So, for these things we will discuss in chemical kinetics. Okay, don't worry, just have to write it. The energy of activation should be less. Once the energy of activation is less, then the number of products found per unit time is more. Okay, by using less quantity of energy, the production rate is more. Then next point is, so due to variable oxidation state, there is the strong bonding between the reactant molecules and the surface of catalyst. So, there is a bonding between the reactant molecules and the surface of catalyst. Along with that, there is a presence of unsatisfied valencies are there. Okay, due to presence of unsatisfied valencies are nothing but what? Active centers. Due to presence of active centers, easily they can attract the reactant molecules. Example, very simple example, if you go for, so during the conversion of ethene into ethane by using nickel catalyst, so nickel must have Ni2 plus configuration. all the, if nickel is catalyst, there must be presence of what? Ni2 plus, Ni2 plus. They are arranged in an kernel, right? No? Yes. So these transition elements can exhibit on what? Different variable oxidation state. So along with Ni2 plus, there is a presence of what? Rarely there is a presence of what? Ni3 plus. So if there is an attacking agent is, so Fe3 plus. Okay, that attacking agent is Fe3 plus or anything, nothing but what? It may be phosphate group, PO4 3 minus. So that can be easily attracted by the unsatisfied groups. Unsatisfied groups is nothing but what? Ni3 plus. Okay, so there is a formation of strong bonding between the catalyst and the reactant molecules. Okay, then and moreover the energy of activation during that condition it is less, easily they can form some products. Okay, yes. So these transition elements, they can exhibit on what? Catalytic property. Why they can exhibit on catalytic property? So due to presence of what? Variable oxidation state. Once the oxidation state is different, they can form some active centers. Once they can form some active centers, okay, and also there is a formation of more surface area. If the surface area provided by that the catalyst is more, the number of reactant molecules come and accumulated on the surface is more. If the number of reactant molecules come and accumulated on the active site is more, then the production rate per unit is more. Along with that, during that condition, the energy of activation is also less. If the energy of activation is less, then the time required for formation of product is also less, means production rate is more. Rate is more means the time required should be very, very less. So you people should write only few points. So why they can exhibit an catalytic property? One is they exhibit variable oxidation state. The energy of activation is less. The surface area provided by the molecule is more. The production rate per unit time is less, and moreover they can provide an lower number of active sites. Now, so we'll go for formation of interstitial compounds. And also they can form some alloys. These transition elements, they can form some interstitial compounds. So what are interstitial compounds? Interstitial compounds nothing but what? There is an accumulation of smaller ions like carbon, nitrogen, hydrogen, etc. These smaller ions which are accumulated in the lattice site of the metal ions, atha crystal lattice. So those smaller ions which they are accumulated in the crystal lattice, then those compounds are called interstitial compounds. So here the condition is, we have to use that smaller ions. I mean what? Carbon, nitrogen and hydrogen. These interstitial compounds are, one is TiC, MnC4, or we can write MnN4, then we can write VH.56 compounds, then we can write TiC1.2, etc. These interstitial compounds which are formed by using and what? Smaller elements like carbon, nitrogen and hydrogen. So those elements which are accumulated in the lattice site are in and what? Crystal lattices. Okay. So next, why these transition elements, they can form some what? Interstitial compounds. So what are the use? What are the application of these interstitial compounds? So once the interstitial compound is formed, they are having a very high melting point. So the melting point of these interstitial compounds should be more than that of what the original component. Means, so compare with what TIC having a what more melting point. To increase the melting point of the compounds, you have to add the smaller compounds. One. Then to increase the hardness is very high. To increase the hardness of the metals, so have to add those smaller components in the crystal lattices. Then they can maintain the metallic conductivity. Even though they can form some what interstitial compounds, they can form some or they can maintain the metallic conductivity. Okay. So once the interstitial compounds are formed, their melting point is very high, or nothing but to increase the melting point of those compounds, have to add the smaller components. To increase the hardness, okay, so we are adding those substances, but they can maintain some metallic conductivity. So these are the applications of what the interstitial compounds. Now, what are alloys? Alloys are nothing but homogeneous compounds which are made up of by two or more metals. The one condition during the formation of alloy, the size difference between those two metals, X and Y metals, the size difference between X and Y metals should have less than 15% difference. Should have less than 15%. Example in case of what? Brass and bronze. Bronze is made up of by copper and tin. Brass is made up of by copper and zinc. So one thing we should remember, these two are alloys. Brass is an alloy, bronze is also alloy. So here the size difference between copper and zinc should be less than 15%. So here copper and tin size difference should be less than 15%, and moreover they should be homogeneous. Then those compounds are called alloys. So why these compounds they can form some alloys? The one reason is the size difference is less. Then why to use those alloys? Means, so usually if alone iron is there, then it is highly reactive. Highly reactive is nothing but what? There is an corrosion will start. Okay, there is an rusting of iron will take place. To avoid the rusting of iron, that iron can be made into stainless steel. So by mixing with what? Either copper, nickel, cobalt, etc. Okay, like that. So gold is there. Gold is we are mixing with what? Copper. Why we are mixing with what? Copper. Why we are making alloy? Because gold is very soft metal. So we are mixing with what? Copper. It is an hard. To increase the hardness, so we are mixing gold with what? Copper. Okay. So why we are mixing nickel and cobalt with iron? To prevent the corrosion, to prevent the rusting of iron, we are mixing with what? Nickel, copper, nickel, cobalt, chromium, etc. Okay? Yes. So we know that due to presence of what? Variable oxidation state, or due to differ in the energy difference is very, very less, these substances can exhibit variable oxidation state. Variable oxidation state, one. Then the atomic size difference is less. Then next they can form some colored complexes. Then next they having a magnetic property, catalytic property. They can form some interstitial compounds. Then we can prepare alloys. So now we will go for the preparation of or the manufacture of what? The two most important compounds. One is potassium dichromate, K2Cr2O7. Potassium dichromate. How to manufacture potassium dichromate? Manufacture of what? Potassium dichromate from chromite ore. Potassium dichromate can be manufactured from chromite ore. That is what? FeOCr2O3, or we may write FeCr2O4. Yes. So, how to manufacture dichromate from chromite ore? So, it involves following steps. The first step is step 1, how to concentrate the ore. Ore should be concentrated by gravity separation, means it should be washed with current of water. Finally, we can get it on what? Concentrated ore. Step 2, that is what? Roasting. What is roasting? Ore is heated at high temperature below its melting point in presence of air or oxygen, then it is called roasting. I mean, so FeOCr2O3 there or FeCr2O4 there, that chromite ore which is heated in presence of what? Air or oxygen, that is what? O2, and also in presence of what? Sodium carbonate, Na2CO3, we can get it on Na2CrO4, that is what? Sodium chromate. Sodium chromate. Okay. So along with that, Fe can be converted to what? Fe2O3. Fe should be converted to Fe2O3. The CO from Na2CO3 can be liberated in the form of what? CO2 gas. Okay. So FeCr2O4 is heated in presence of what? Air or oxygen, that is around 1000 degrees Celsius. In presence of sodium carbonate, it can form some sodium chromate. The yellow colored solution which is formed, that is sodium chromate is obtained, plus Fe2O3, and this is an what? Solid residue and CO2 gas. So how to balance it? So if 4 FeCr2O4, then iron should be 4 means what? 2 Fe2O3. Okay. So if you use 8 Na2CO3, 8 2s are 16, means 8 Na2CrO4. So here 4 into 2, 8. So then 8 Cr there. So carbon 8 C there, how to write? 8 CO2. Then the oxygen should be, you see in the left hand side, 4 3s are 12, 8 3s are 24, 36, 36 plus 2, 38. Here 32, 32 plus 6, 38 plus 16. 38 plus 16 means what? 54. Means have to add another 16. Means have to write 7 O2. Okay. So when that chromite ore is heated in presence of air or oxygen at 1000 degrees Celsius, and in presence of what? Sodium carbonate, it forms an sodium chromate. It is an yellow colored solution. This is solid residue. That solid residue and the solution, they are separated by filtration. Those two are separated by filtration. Then that yellow colored solution, in the third step, Na2CrO4 is treated with acid, maybe with sulfuric acid. Okay, when we are treated with what sulfuric acid, Na2CrO4 can be converted to Na2Cr2O7. This is sodium chromate. Sodium chromate. It can be converted to sodium dichromate. Sodium chromate is converted to sodium dichromate. So plus H2O or Na can be removed in the form of Na2SO4. We'll see. To balance the reaction, so 2 Na2Cr here it is 2 Na2, 2 2s are 4, 2 Na2, SO4 1, hydrogen how many? 2 there, yes, oxygen 7 plus 1, 8, 8 plus 4 12, 4, 4 plus 8 12. Okay. So sodium chromate is treated with what acid? It becomes what? Sodium dichromate is obtained. So this is more soluble component. Okay. So along with that there is a presence of what? Na2SO4 there. So how to take out the Na2Cr2O7 means what? Sodium dichromate by filtration. By filtration, how to collect that? Sodium dichromate solution. Then that sodium dichromate solution in the third step, not third, that is fourth step. Sodium dichromate is converted to potassium dichromate, K2Cr2O7. So just by changing, instead of Na I have to write K. How? By adding an KCl. So 2 KCl, okay, Na2Cr2O7 becomes what? K2Cr2O7, okay. So 2 Na plus 2 Cl, it becomes what? 2 NaCl. It forms an, so orange colored potassium, orange colored crystals of potassium dichromate. Potassium dichromate. Yes. See how to manufacture that potassium dichromate from chromate ore. So it involves following steps. First step is how to concentrate the ore by gravity separation, means it is washed with current of water to remove maximum gangue particles. Finally, we can get it on concentrated ore, that is what FeCr2O4 or FeCO2O3. Next step is roasting, means ore is heated at high temperature in presence of what? Air or oxygen. By using sodium carbonate, we can get it on sodium chromate ore. Okay, it is an yellow colored solution. Okay, so this is solid residue and solution which are separated by filtration. Okay, so finally that sodium chromate solution is treated with what? Acid. That sodium chromate is converted to sodium dichromate. So once again, have to isolate that sodium dichromate by filtration. Then that sodium dichromate is treated with what? KCl. We can get it on the crystals of potassium dichromate. Okay. Yes. This is what the manufacture of what? Potassium dichromate. So what is the application of what? Potassium dichromate? The potassium dichromate is used in the leather tanning. So leather tanning industry, we can use that potassium dichromate, and also it acts as a very good oxidizing agent. We are used as analytical reagent. We are used as analytical reagent. So here how to discuss about that the oxidizing property of what? Potassium dichromate. So before that we should know that the structure of what? Chromate ore and dichromate ore. I mean chromate in case of what? Na2CrO4 or K2CrO4 there and K2Cr2O7 there. You see, So in case of K2CrO4, there is a chromate ore, that is what, CrO4 2 minus, chromate. In case of K2Cr2O7, there is a presence of what? Dichromate ion, that is what, Cr2O7 2 minus. So the structure of what chromate ion is CrO4 2 minus, it is tetrahedral structure. Like this. Okay? Then dichromate is there. Dichromate is nothing but what? 2 Cr there. In between 2 Cr, there is a presence of what? Oxygen linkage. Okay? So here each chromium having an 3 oxygen atoms. Okay. The angle between those two, it is 126. Means here chromate ion, it looks like a tetrahedron. So this dichromate, it looks like an 2 tetrahedral structures. Okay. Now, so we will go for the oxidizing property of what? Dichromate ion, K2Cr2O7. Okay.